Hey guys, what's poppin'? Jacques Slade here, and this is the new best running shoe from Nike for the everyday runner, the Nike Pegasus 37. It actually represents a long line of running shoes from the brand and is in fact the all-time best-selling sneaker in that world for Nike. I've been wearing it since the 32 on and off, and in that short time, it has changed a ton. If we're really gonna get to the facts, this is probably one of the most important sneakers that Nike sells currently, and most people in the sneaker world really know very little about it or even care about it. I've had this pair for a few days now, and these are my first thoughts on the shoe, but not before I give you a proper unboxing. Now, most of you guys have seen an unboxing before, and this really isn't any different. Nike has been using this same box for as long as I can remember, and for those that stack your shoes and keep them in the box, I've actually found that this style of box is one of the sturdiest. Quick tip there. That obviously has nothing to do with the shoe, but for those that know, you definitely know. So the Peg 37 is scheduled to release to the public in the next couple of days on April 28th. And unlike a lot of shoes we all know and love, these will start just over $100 at $120. And considering how we are all on lockdown at the moment and working from home, this might be the sneaker you see your neighbors and all of your friends rocking out there on the block when they're trying to get their workouts in at home. Now, this isn't going to be a full review of the Pegasus 37. It will be more of a first impressions, I'd say. I do plan on putting some miles on these and getting back to you, but for now, let's just take a closer look at what the shoe has to offer. First thing to note is that this isn't the Pegasus 37 in the way we think about signature shoes. The Pegasus was first introduced back in '83, which means it's been around for around 37 years, which is where the Peg 37 number comes from. I don't believe this is the 37th version of the shoe, and in fact, they actually stopped making the Pegasus back in 1997, I think. Thankfully, they decided to bring it back. Now, looking at the 37, Nike decided to make a few updates that should make the shoe better for runners. If you know about the Pegasus line, they make both a men's and a women's version of the shoe. And the men's version, which you see here, actually switches out the full-length Zoom bag that we saw in the previous version and updated it with a larger or thicker version that's going to be right here in the forefoot. According to Nike, an overwhelming number of runners strike at the midfoot, and with the new placement of the Zoom bag, it will actually be more impactful for those runners. The previous Zoom bag was 4 millimeters, whereas the new bag is 10 millimeters, which more than doubles the thickness of the bag, and according to Nike, delivers significantly more return, which actually makes sense. They also updated the placement of the Zoom bag this year. Generally, Zoom is placed closer to the ground where you feel it less, but it has a better interaction with the surface that you're on. However, in this version, Nike actually moved the bag closer to the forefoot. Now, what that's going to do is allow you to feel it more, though in my mind, that delivers less energy return as the energy has to pass through another material. One thing I do like about the new bag is that it's articulated, which helps with the heel to toe transition. Basically, what that means is it provides a more balanced feeling as your foot moves from one segment that's here all the way to the other. And as you know, everyone's foot is different, but with the Pegasus, Nike makes this shoe the most adaptable across the board so that anyone that picks up a pair will actually be able to immediately go for a run. The new placement of the Zoom bag shouldn't impact that at all, and if anything, it just provides a slightly different feel with your heel to toe transition. And speaking of the heel to toe transition, the main feeling you are going to get with this shoe is going to come from the midsole. Nike has been using different forms of foams over the year, including a change to Cushlon foam for the women's pair starting back in 2018, I believe it was. But this year, or for the 37, they're actually using React. I've grown very accustomed to React, and it's probably the foam that I run in the most for the last 6 to 9 months. Now, React does have a few different versions of foam, and Nike wasn't specific about the version that they're actually using here, but my hope is that it pulls from the Infinity React foam because I really enjoyed running in those lately. Oh, and real quick here, Nike Running is leading with 2 types of foam at the moment. Both of them are TPE or thermoplastic elastomer foams, which I have to think Nike will use to replace the EVA midsoles that we've seen for the longest time. Even though TPE foams do eventually break down like EVA, TPE generally holds up longer than EVA and also provides a better energy return. In a sense, it's a win-win for Nike and for runners. Nike gets to step up the performance benefit of all of their sneakers, and runners, they get a shoe like this that's gonna last longer and provides them with a more responsive ride. I think that's a win-win. If you ever put a bunch of miles on a shoe with an EVA midsole, you can start to tell when the foam is bottoming out and start to work against you. With this, you have a lot more time in them. And those same rules apply for this is the men's shoe, but they apply for the women's shoe as well. There are some subtle changes like the responsiveness of the zoom unit. For men, Nike says overwhelmingly that they like a firmer air pressure underfoot, and the zoom unit is set to 20 PSI, whereas the women's version is set to 15 PSI. The zoom bag thickness hasn't changed at all, but the amount of pressure that you feel here in the shoe is different as well. Well, slightly different, I should say. The cut of the two versions are slightly different as well. For the women's versions, the saddle was made more curvaceous and the medial support was increased, and women's foot tend to be a little thinner than the men's foot in most cases. This is something Nike has actually been doing since 2006, I'm going to say, and shows that the company is actually listening to the consumer, both the man and the woman. So outside of those specific changes, anyone familiar with a Pegasus line or Nike's more focused running silhouettes, you'll instantly see the design language on the upper, the way that the midsole flows towards the toe and the upper almost sits like right inside of it. I think it looks dope. The pointy heel that takes a lot of inspiration from the Vaporfly and Next Percent that the pros wear has also trickled down to the Pegasus line over the last few years, and I like that as well. It's definitely a more aggressive approach to running shoe design, which has a tendency to be a bit boring and even bulky depending on the brand you're talking about. But these feel fast, but not that they necessarily make you faster, but they do look fast and look good, which can help you mentally. As you runners out there know, running is a solitary game. Anything that can help you get through those last few steps, whether it's mental or physical, is really a win, especially in my book. Now, the challenge with the Pegasus is actually creating something that not just runners can wear and feel comfortable in, but everybody, from the first time runner to someone like me that has a couple marathons under his belt to a pro that wants to train in something different. This shoe has to fill that gap, and it's not easy to create something that everyone can feel like it was made specifically for them, but Nike has consistently done that with the Pegasus. Once people get a pair, they often don't want to give them up. I have friends that still run in the 32, or more recently, people that don't want to give up the most recent Pegasus Turbo that was released last year. I believe it was August of last year. If anything, the Pegasus line is, I would say, a victim of its own success. And that means that 37 has a lot of work to do if they plan on giving people to give up their old pair for this new pair. Getting a new customer, that's pretty easy. Teaching an old dog new tricks, well, that's something else entirely. Anyway, those are my first thoughts about the Pegasus 37. Look for these to officially roll out starting on April 28th on Nike.com, and I believe they're hitting other retailers on the 30th. Pricing again is at $120, and they'll be dropping in the lime green and black colorway, which we recently saw on the Next Percent. I'm Jacques Slade. Let me know your thoughts now that you've actually seen the shoe in a bit more detail, and I'll let you know my thoughts once I get a little time with these on the pavement. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.